So, hi, Frankie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Thank you for
good. I'm
having me.
good. So, with pleasure. And for those who don't know Frankie, she's an amazing entrepreneur. She's a woman on a mission. We're going to talk about that later. And she's the founder, the creator of Coconut Girl. She sells amazing desserts. I don't know if I should call them like that, but you're going to tell us more about this in a second. But the first thing I want to say, and maybe that's what people are wondering, is that I discovered you on Shark Tank. Maybe people saw you on Shark Tank, and maybe people are wondering, how did you end up there? That's the first thing I want to ask you, and then of course we're gonna rewind. We're gonna tell you whole
Okay.
story. I want to know everything.
Okay. Well, till this day, I honestly don't even know how I ended up on Shark Tank, but my segment did air March of this year, right before shelter in place happened here in California. But so I actually applied twice. I don't know if a lot of people don't realize this, but I do. I'm very transparent about my story. I talked about how I applied the first time. I made it through a few rounds, and the producers decided to change their mind. But I ended up applying second time. Obviously, I made it, and the reason why I decided to apply again was because the first time I applied, it was an open casting out in Palm Springs area. I ran into somebody at the food show the next day, and he recognized me from the casting call. He goes, "Hey, were you just, at Shark Tank?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we ended up exchanging business cards. And later that year, I think it was around November, his segment aired. And I am like, oh my goodness, I met this guy. That could have been me. And so
Hmm.
I was motivated to reapply again, and I did that last year in March, and I made it. I filmed in June of last year, and then my segment aired March of this year. So that's how I ended up on
Wow.
Shark.
I like that you're transparent about it because there's nothing to hide. I think it's a strength that you tried a second time, and that's you and it's also like kind of a rite of passage, if I can say so. The first time you're discovering, I guess, and you don't know
Yeah.
exactly, and the second times maybe you were more confident.
Mhm. Definitely, because you don't know what to expect. I mean, and it's funny because I'm very camera shy. I was living in LA at the time, but there's nothing Hollywood about my world. But I saw it all the time, so yeah, it was crazy for me to even put myself out there and then reapply, and I got it. So definitely second time around, I knew what I did wrong. I just didn't have enough energy,
Mm.
and definitely a lot more hungry the second time around.
So talking about hungry, so tell us about your products. You're gonna be the best person to describe them. I don't know if I'm qualified enough. Although I saw everything you did and it's amazing. That's why you are in this podcast. So tell us, what are your products exactly?
So I make nice cream sandwiches. I call them nice cream because they're dairy free, technically not ice cream, made with coconut milk, which is why it's called Coconut Girl. We
Mm.
have three flavors right now: Hang Loose Vanilla, Beach Bum Maple, and Aloha Chocolate. It's got this very cute beach vibe, which is, I started the company in Santa Monica. But they're nice cream sandwiches. So all of our products are based on the paleo diet. Our cookies are made with almond butter, only use coconut milk. There's no dairy, no soy, and I only use honey, dates, and maple syrup to sweeten all of our products. So it's a healthy alternative to ice cream sandwiches. There's nothing really out there. You get the ice cream that's gluten free or dairy free, or you have the ice cream sandwiches. You don't really. It's hard to find something that's both gluten free and dairy free, um, and that's good for you. Better alternative. So
Yeah,
that's
that. So is it? I was wondering that. I don't know why, but I was wondering, is it fat or is it like good fat?
it's good fat. So
Okay.
coconut milk has a lot of, or
Yeah.
coconut has a lot of fat, so does almond butter. So my whole thing with my product is not so much the calorie count, but it's, counting the chemicals. So I emphasize the quality ingredients using non-processed, no sugars, no refined sugars. So it is higher in fat and calories, but you're putting the good ingredients in your body, and that is what fills you up and makes you full.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a low calorie, no fat dessert. It's still a dessert, so it does have sugar, but I use natural sugars.
No, that's really cool. I usually don't start like a podcast by saying, "Hey, present your product," like if you were pitching or something. But I think your product is great because you really made something. You really feel the need, and you made a dessert for people who usually can't have dessert, basically. And I love that you core target or your customers, or you, I guess you have a better name for your community, or um, but your ideal customer is very clear on your website, and I can directly see that you understand them and that you made a product really for them. But from what I understood, it was an accident at the beginning, right?
Yes,
It started as an accident.
definitely. I mean, so I created a product for myself, to be honest with you.
Okay.
About 10 years ago, I started doing CrossFit. With CrossFit, we're all about the paleo diet at the time, and everyone thought it was a bad diet. But when I joined the gym, I've always been obsessed with health and fitness, but they introduced me to the paleo diet. I didn't look at it as a diet. It's definitely more of a lifestyle where our focus became the quality of ingredients, not so much, counting calories. Because for someone like me, counting calories, they just don't work. I tend to obsess over it, and then I end up over consuming. So it just doesn't work for me. So people like me out there who aren't focused so much on the calorie content, but wanting to put the quality ingredients in their body. So I created that. I had to do paleo for 30 days, and I was basically creating healthy alternatives to everything: pancakes, rice, and then desserts. And so it was just an accident. I had this obsession with date shakes, and I dreamt about it because that's how obsessed I am. And my dream basically was just putting this date shake recipe into an ice cream machine. And then the next day I decided to do it. I'm like, wow, that tastes actually amazing. And I started giving it to my friends at the gym, the coaches, and that's just how it spread organically. It was definitely an accident.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. And how hard, I was wondering, how hard is it to make it a product, some food that are free of everything, gluten free and this free and that? Is it really hard to make it simple, if I can say so?
Yes, it's hard
Okay.
in the sense that it's a perishable product. So, with a lot of products out there in the grocery stores, you're having to add the chemicals, the stabilizers, the preservatives. But luckily, my product is frozen, and so it has a longer shelf life. But it makes it harder because it's frozen. So I can't ship to you, for instance, as much as I love
It's a
to ship.
shame.
You have to ship overnight. But it's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, it's a difficult product to make, considering it's a frozen product.
And at the beginning, you were on your tricycle, right? And you were going to the beach. So how was it hard? You had to had something refrigerated, right, to sell it on the beach. I mean, like
Yes.
an ice cream tricycle, I guess.
Yeah, so it's an icicle tricycle. Mind you, I knew nothing about the industry. I didn't even know how to make ice cream the right way. I mean, eventually when I went to culinary school. But so I knew nothing about marketing. When I finished, well, so I dropped out of UCLA, ended up going to culinary school, and I wanted to do a paleo meal delivery. So, I was a chef. And then after finishing culinary school, I had private clients from my gym, was making them paleo meals, and the option of for my dessert was the ice cream, but I was only selling them by pints. There were no ice cream sandwiches. And then I just decided to focus on one product. So I just sat at my dining table, and I remember just brainstorming. I need a name. I need a name. I think I want to pursue the dessert. And so I just thought of the name Coconut Girl, and I said, I'm going to be my own brand. So I was always trying to think about how am I going to be different. And growing up in the Philippines, we used to have these ice cream carts that we would get ice
Mm.
cream from, and that's what inspired me to get an Icicle Tricycle. Did my Google research, found a company in, I think they were in Portland, sent in my own design, and they shipped it to me. I don't know, within a month or so. And I just started going to CrossFit events on the weekends, going to the beach, and just selling out of my Icicle Tricycle. So I
Ah,
still
that's
have it.
cool.
And if you watch my
Yeah,
Shark Tank, I did ride it into the tank. So that's
this
how
is
it
cool.
started.
Yeah, and your mother is from the Philippines, right? Both
Yes.
of your parents.
Both my parents, and I was actually born in the Philippines. So I moved
Okay.
to Oakland, California when I was 5. So I pretty much grew up here.
And I guess your mom also inspired you in some ways. That's
Yes.
what I thought I understood from the biography, and she was working two jobs. That's the story, right?
Yes. So growing up, being an immigrant, I watched both my parents just work their butts off, but especially my mother, because I was mainly raised by my mother, and she would work her accounting job, or she was a bookkeeper Monday through Friday, and work at a care home on the weekends. And so I saw that. To me, that was normal, just working your butt off, doing whatever it takes to support yourself, your family. Um, so that she definitely inspired me to work my butt off, because it took me a
Mm.
while to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. But working was just never an issue for me. So
That's good. And I guess also it inspired you to create that hashtag. I love that hashtag you have on Instagram, Women on a Mission. I tagged my wife in it. Uh,
okay.
yeah, yeah, no, but it's but she doesn't. Her thing is not in English. But anyways, I thought it was cool. And yeah, so you're highlighting women. So you put them on the spotlight, if I can say so. That's really cool. Can you tell us about that mission?
Yes. So growing up, I struggled. I didn't, even though I'm close to my mom now, growing up, I wasn't close to her. I didn't have anybody to really guide me. And then growing up, being a tomboy, I felt like I was always different. I didn't really follow the herd. But
Mm.
I've always been about empowering other women, because I didn't have that growing up. So I had to go seek for it myself. So now, after sharing my story, being transparent about everything in my Shark Tank process, being an entrepreneur, I realized that a lot of women could relate to me, and they appreciate my honesty. And so I realize I've inspired a lot of women, through Shark Tank and sharing my story. And I'm like, well, this is amazing. This is always what I've wanted, to create a company, and just inspire other women, or young girls, or it doesn't matter how old you are. And so that's always been something that I've been passionate about. And why not use the platform? If we
Yeah.
can inspire even just one woman to share our stories, our struggles, why not? That to me is very fulfilling, because that's what I didn't have growing up, and
Mm.
that's the leadership that I want to have for my company and whatever I do. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
it's
whole
really cool.
thinking.
And could you talk with those one of those women and some of the
I
women? Yeah.
I know a handful of them. Being
Okay.
in my industry, you make a lot of friends, connections, and then being
Sure.
in fitness. So a lot of them I actually know. And when you go to the grocery stores, you do store demos, you end up meeting a lot of these entrepreneurs and these vendors. And that's what inspired me to do that as well, because it's like, I already know a bunch of these women, and then now we have other women tagging each other, or
Yeah.
nominating them. So yeah, I think it's just a great thing to do, to just have that support, and just be transparent about your struggles. Because with social media, although it's shifting now, a lot of people only want to glamorize your success, right? They don't want to
Yeah.
talk about failures. But for me, what I would always read, I did drop out of UCLA, but I'm always self-educating, and what I love reading, stories about other entrepreneurs, and but mainly their failures, because we're all going to fail in life. And
Yeah.
but when you're inspired by other people's stories, that's what keeps you going. And that's what I want to do with, telling these women's stories, women on a mission. It's, yeah.
Yeah, and it can be also confusing because we often hear the same examples of people, although they said they failed, they at the end they succeeded. It's always the same guys, Steve Jobs and these guys, and we're like, come on, there must be other entrepreneurs out there who have different stories I can better relate to. So no,
Exactly.
that's really cool. And do you think it's harder for a woman to be an entrepreneur?
I definitely think so.
Yes.
Not to say entrepreneurship is just hard in general, but I think so in a sense, because especially, being younger, and then dropping out of college. But I feel like it is because sometimes men don't take you that seriously. Like being in my industry, I'm technically a manufacturer, and then working in these facilities, a lot of them, they don't think that I know how to work the machines. And mind you,
Hmm.
I'm like, I know how to install this, I will figure it out. And so there's a little bit of that, where you have to gain their respect. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I don't
Yes.
understand how mechanics work, how this machine works. I mean, So definitely, I mean, I drive a truck. I'm a tomboy, and so I definitely know how to figure things out. So I'm not fragile by any means. But I feel like it can be very hard because we are more of an emotional um, human being. It's just I know I am, but I'm always having to prove to myself like I can set my emotions aside and make a logical business decision. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
in
not
the
saying
little
it's not for
things.
everybody, but yeah.
It's not like, hey, you woman, it's not like a direct, it's all in the little things. People maybe how to talk to you in some situations, I guess, how they, like you said with the machines, they maybe they didn't say anything, they just assume you don't know, those kind of things.
I had one guy tell me, and he owned the kitchen, and it's funny because I ended up learning how to use his machine better than him, and so he would call me and ask me, "Oh, and so that's just I'm not saying everybody experiences. That's just from my
Yeah,
experience.
no,
I
of
dealt
course.
with, because they look at me like, "Oh, you make ice cream." It's like, well, it's not just making ice cream. There's so many things behind that.
Mm.
And that's why I want to inspire other women, to just go for it because the great thing about us women is we can multitask, and we will get the job done. So yeah.
So what kind of advice can you give to women entrepreneur out there who wants to make it and they just have an idea and they started, they don't know, and maybe as a woman or and also as an entrepreneur, like a woman and a guy actually can work.
We tend to think that our weaknesses is what is holding us back. But I've learned that my weaknesses actually, I mean, because you're more driven to prove yourself or other people. I've learned to take my weaknesses, know what they are, but not to let that stop you. So, if there's an area in life, like for instance, for me, it was always marketing. I didn't go to business school, I didn't learn anything about sales and marketing, and I was very shy. That was my weakness. And I used to let that stop me from doing anything I wanted in life. And I said, you know what? I'm the only one holding myself back. So I decided to take that weakness, whether it's being shy, and I said, I'm going to put myself out there. And I was more determined. And I think that's what made me successful because I knew that was my weakness and I had to work more at it, harder, and prove myself and to other people that I'm not that weakness. Just and have that weakness, whatever, empower you. I think that's the number one thing because we're all insecure people, right? Whether you
Yeah.
want to admit it or not, we have our insecurities. But it's just um, it, getting head on with your fears or your weaknesses. So that I guess that would be my advice: is to not let your weakness stop you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah, that's well said. And at the same time, I feel like for you, sometimes you want to prove, that it fuels you, right? I feel like throughout your stories, it's like, oh, no, he can do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm hungrier, and now I'm gonna do it.
I'm a tomboy. I have two older brothers. I played basketball, so I'm very competitive. So
You're a
that's where
fighter,
it
yeah.
came from. Yeah. So I would always have guys say, "No, you can't play football. You're a girl," and so it always motivated me to play better than them and run faster. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And so to continue the journey into your entrepreneurial adventures, then you were contacted. How did you went to wholesales, basically from your tricycle to big stores? How did that happen? How did you manage it?
So I had the Icicle Tricycle. I would do fitness events and then I would do farmers markets like any day if I could. And I remember I was loading up my Icicle Tricycle in the car and I had a grocery store approach me. They were opening up a second location in downtown LA. He had asked if I did wholesale. I lied. I said, yes, I do wholesale. And then I had to figure out how to do, the labeling, the labels, the barcode, the packaging. And luckily, the second location, they weren't opening until, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months. So I had time. I
Okay.
was excited. And so that's how I got my first account, my retail account. They actually approached me. And I get it. It's people want to give me crap for saying, oh, she lied. Well, it's not anything different.
No, loved it.
In a different way where, before I was selling it directly to consumers one-on-one at a farmer's market or event, but now you're just selling at a bulk price. I had the labels, but obviously I didn't have barcodes because I was selling them directly. So I get it. There's a fake it till you make it. And yes, I lied about doing wholesale, but it wasn't anything different than what I was already doing because was actually selling wholesale to some gyms. But, it just wasn't at
People
that level.
really give you crap for that? People
I
actually,
I've seen some comments where, everyone always
really?
will have a comment and everyone's entitled to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, you're encouraging lying. I'm like, well, I didn't lie and say I didn't know how to make ice cream. I had a product. I just needed a barcode, and figure out nutrition labels.
Hmm.
But you have to do these things, right? I mean, you don't get
Yeah.
the gate knowing how to do everything, but it pushed me. So when that grocery store approached me, that's what gave me the idea to just shift my focus on now approaching grocery stores. And so that's what I started doing. I mean, it was basically cold calling, going to these individual local markets, saying, "Hey, I'm Frankie, you have this great product." And they loved it. And that's how I started getting grocery stores. I mean, till this day, I don't
Hmm.
have a food broker, but I would just call them, email them, do whatever I could to get my products out there to the right person. And then eventually, probably a year later, grocery stores started approaching me. Whole Foods found me, and then other buyers found me through other markets. And so it started spreading organically.
Wow. Luckily you lied. It's funny to me because as a magician, I always say I mean, of course we lie for good cause. We like to say so. But also the way you become a magician is I mean, maybe it's more an entrepreneurial thing, but when people ask you as a magician, hey, can you do this? And you have no idea how to do it, you say yes, that's the thing you do because you know you're gonna get there. And it's as much of a magician thing than an entrepreneurial thing. And I mean, in my career, people ask me, hey, can you make this guy appear on stage? And I had no idea how to do it, but I knew someone who can teach me, or I can read in a book or whatever. There's so many ways to know. And I think people are shy to do this because parents tell them lying is bad, but it's no, I think lying is good sometimes in specific cases, and this is one of them. So I think it's great you did it. I don't understand why those comments happened because yeah.
Richard Branson, and he's been quoted many times, and I don't know it by heart, but where he talks about, somebody offers you an opportunity and you don't know how to figure it out, say yes to it and then figure it out later. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what he did, whether you want to
Yeah.
call it lying or not. Obviously, there's good lies, bad lies, but
Yeah.
if I didn't say yes to that, I mean, I probably wouldn't be where I am, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you have to say yes to these opportunities. They're opportunities is what they are. And but yeah, I'm the kind of person where I mean I don't know a lot of things, but once the opportunity is in front of me, I will figure it out. And you have to be like that as an entrepreneur. That's the biggest fear a lot of people have is a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to pursue whatever it is, their business or career, they feel like they're not ready because they don't have everything figured out or their product or their prototype is not perfect. And then they don't want to start it. My biggest advice, because I get asked all the time, like, what would you do? Because my website's not up, this and that. It's like,
Mm.
it doesn't matter. You have a great product, get it out there. You'll figure it out later. You have time to perfect it because you have to put yourself out there. And with my product, I started as a pint and then I shifted into an ice cream sandwich because I saw my customers at the gym, they were making them into ice cream sandwiches. So I changed my product.
Mm.
But it didn't let me, it didn't stop me from not putting my products out there. So don't wait for things to be perfect, is my point.
Yeah, and it's great that you actually observed it and that it didn't stop there. You just actually see what happens, and that's what's important. I think people also might be fixed to an idea, no, I said I do this, so I do this, and then they don't necessarily look on how to adjust it. Doesn't because that I think that's great that you saw that they were doing that, and you're like, oh, interesting. So maybe I'm gonna do that.
You
Sorry.
have you have to adapt.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving. So a lot of people are too terrified of putting themselves out there and launching a product because in their minds it's not perfect.
Yeah, it's true. And so you do everything yourself? Even now, do you actually, when you call like grocery stores or um, when you to expand to different locations, do you still do it yourself?
Um, so prior to Shark Tank, I was in the kitchen 7 days a week. I had part-time help, mainly in the kitchen, but I was doing everything, the sales, the marketing, all the
Uh,
customer service, Instagram. Now, because of the investment from Mark Cuban, it allowed me to get manufacturers. So I do not make the products anymore. I've basically outsourced that, which has allowed me to focus on the business and the sales and marketing. Unfortunately, the timing of everything, when Shark Tank aired in March, we had shelter in place 2 days after, and so it definitely hit me in a hard way, but I'm not in the kitchen every day, so that's allowed me to really build my team. I still mainly the person working on everything, but we do have support from our Cubans team. I do have a part-time employee, and I have consultants here and there that work with me. So that's the current situation with Coconut Girl.
so what is the team that you built? I'm interested to know how did you build it? What kind of people you chose?
I have a strategic advisor now. I have a CFO that I consult with. I have my bookkeepers, accountants, and then people on Mark Cuban's team. So they definitely help me. Although I'm not working with a food broker right now, but they do help me with the connections and getting my products out there. And
Hmm.
so I'm very fortunate that I do have this team to rely
So
on.
it changed a lot with the investment. How so that changed? What else changed? Basically.
Well, we were just in one distribution center January of this year before Shark Tank aired. Now we're in 8 or 9, and we've expanded to other states. So we're in Texas, we're in all of California. We were originally just in Southern California. So Texas, we've always been in Arizona, Hawaii, and Nevada. But so yeah, Texas is probably one of our biggest accounts. We're in Washington, Tennessee, and Michigan. So we've definitely expanded. We're
Yeah.
growing, and I believe we were going to be offering direct shipping. We're partnering up with a different company, so we're going to be offering shipping to people who can't in the U.S. Who are not able to go to the grocery stores that we're in right now. So it's definitely growing. Very excited. Um, yeah, it's changed for the better for sure.
And if you didn't you were if Shark Tank didn't happen, you weren't accepted, what would you have done? You would have looked for another investor, you would have continued yourself?
The traditional way. I mean, I don't know why. I was so busy just making ice cream, and I didn't really go out and seek for investors. I just
Mm.
decided Shark Tank, which is usually backwards, I guess, but that would have been the route.
It depends on people, yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been the route. I mean, the great thing about Shark Tank, obviously, is if you make it on air, is the publicity, and it's a wider
Yeah,
audience.
of course, yeah.
Like, why would you say no to that? But that's definitely the route that I would have taken, was to traditional get an investor. Yeah, I mean, it didn't really matter. I was gonna find a way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't, if you don't have the knowledge and you think, well, I'm just gonna continue like that. I guess a lot of people do that they would have continued, which is not a shame. They do whatever they want, but if they want to expand, if people have a business like yours, do you think they need an investor to go to the next stage, or is there any other ways?
Mm, I mean, unless you come from money, I mean, definitely need capital in any type of business. But
Yeah.
with my industry, of course, when you work with food, the distributors you work with, you have to upfront the cost for inventory, right? So you're sitting there and working with manufacturers, you have bigger purchase orders. And so, cash flow is always tight for every company. But when you have a perishable product, especially when it's frozen, and you're managing logistics, distribution, manufacturing, it's hard to not seek for help, because you'll burn through the cash really fast.
Hmm. I was thinking I'm gonna get one of those. I don't know how yet,
Come
but
to
I'm
you.
gonna get one of those ice cream sandwich. I'm gonna go to the US. I'm gonna call you and say, hey, where are they? I want one. I want to try. If you cannot ship one to France,
I
I'm
wish I
frustrated
could.
now.
I know.
No, No, but that's cool. I didn't know how to. What would you have said if I was going to ask you what changed after the investment? But do you think it's for the? It didn't kill your passion. Did it? How did
No.
it change for you personally as an entrepreneur?
Um, in a weird way, it kind of gave me validation. It's weird, just for
Yeah,
people were excited about it. And being so insecure and camera shy and then putting yourself out there, you don't know what to expect on Shark Tank. But the fact that the sharks, they were loving it, especially someone like Mark Cuban, because I wanted
yeah,
him to be my investor. But in a way, it gave the company validation because I was doing everything on my own. And I'm just like, I'm winging this. But people were passionate about it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who've seen Shark Tank, never tried my products, but they're determined to try my products. So yeah, it was definitely exciting to finally put myself out there. It's definitely changed for the better, in a sense where, yeah, it just gave the company validation in a
yeah.
sense.
I guess you learned a lot also in the process. So much, I guess. It must have been like a like a complete turn for you,
Yeah.
maybe in your mindset. Yeah, I can imagine. That's a really cool story. That's a really cool story, and I love that you embodied well. So it's pretty cool. And what about the COVID? You said it was hard on your company. I mean, it was hard for everyone. Hey, welcome to the club. But how did you manage it?
Well, this is what happened. I mean, Shark Tank aired. Everyone literally went to the grocery store and bought everything off the shelves. And then shelter in place happened. Everyone's freaking out about toilet paper. So obviously there was a disruption in distribution. And I had
Mm.
customers on Instagram saying, "Hey, we were going to all these stores. They're empty." So I'm calling the grocery stores and I'm like, "Hey, are you gonna stock my products?" And they're like, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but COVID is happening and all the freezers are empty. We can't prioritize your products because you're an ice cream." So I'm not essential, and I totally understand everyone was out there buying the essential products and ice cream unfortunately took a back burner. But eventually we bounced back. Now it's not normal, but you go to the grocery store, it's semi-normal. It's not empty. People like not freaking out about toilet paper. So it did hurt me, but in a way, it was a blessing in disguise because at that time as well, I was transitioning from being a self-manufacturer to working with two
Mm.
co-packers. So we were, trying to refine everything. So it was a blessing in disguise because it bought me time to really nail down manufacturing.
Mm.
So yeah, there
That's
was definitely some
interesting.
positive in that.
I like that you see always the positive. You need to as an entrepreneur, but it's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
It was just a weird, the timing of everything, like I said, was good because,
Yeah.
you know, moving manufacturing and working with new co-packers, I mean, there's a lot of things to figure out and it takes some time. And so if COVID didn't happen, there's no way we could have been able to just keep going and going and going. But yeah, so it did hurt, for a few
Yeah, for
months,
sure. Yeah.
but we bounced back and we're launching in other distribution centers, which is allowing us to be in other states. So yeah, I'm excited. Unfortunately, we don't have any seasonal flavors right now, so it's a little bit of our downtime, but not really. But I always take downtime as a way to focus on the business and plan ahead as well. So
Yeah, that's cool. I love every time there is something wrong, there's something positive in it. I
yes,
love
you
that.
will
I love that.
look at it like that.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think a lot of people get carried away, and maybe that's not the right words. People get
Discouraged? Oh,
overwhelmed, and they don't make the effort to look at the positive. And I
mhm.
think for you, I don't know, but it seems like it became a habit that you are doing this. I think it's important for entrepreneurs out there, make the effort, force yourself at first, because that's so important. Otherwise, on the long term, you become crazy. You always see the dark side and
Yeah.
the bad stuff. So, and how did you personally manage the COVID? Not necessarily you on the business side. I know it's very linked because that's your life. You're an entrepreneur, but
I, in a weird way, I mean, of course, we were all scared. You didn't know what was going to happen, but in a way, I thought it was kind of not bad because on a personal level, I could kind of just focus on like, okay, relax because you work so much and so many things
Mm.
happen. Because prior to Shark Tank, I just moved from Santa Monica to here in the Bay Area. So it kind of gave me downtime to focus and, spend time with my family. But I think it was good for me. You know, you started when things are just going, 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 moving, 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 you take everything for granted. And so it was kind of
Yeah.
like back, aside from Coconut Girl, who are you, right? I almost kind
Mm.
of lost myself because everything was tied to my business. And so now I'm just been focusing on, what makes me happy and how do I kind of have my own identity aside from Coconut Girl. So it was good for me in that sense. I've reconnected with, people in a weird way, with my family members, even though we're not allowed to see each other. But yeah, you just kind of step back and pause and reflect on your life and how you could be a better person. So it was good for me.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're an entrepreneur and you have your brand, especially when you embody your brand. You, Coconut Girl, it's hard sometimes to separate. Um, I know I had that as a magician, as a keynote speaker. It's me. People buy me. It's even I don't even have. I mean, I do have a product, but people buy as much the product as me, and I know exactly what you mean. It's hard sometimes to, especially maybe it's even harder when you do everything, when you do so much everything yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess you don't do that anymore now because you have a whole team. You still do a lot, but yeah. Do you think it's harder when you were in the if when COVID happened, you were in the first phase, or you didn't have the investment yet, or
No, I did because I got the investment December,
okay,
and
but it was
so
still a big
nothing started
transition.
March. Yeah, so it was a transition, and mind
Mm.
you, it wasn't just moving my business. I was moving my life. Like I was
Yeah, yeah,
starting
yeah.
over, even though I grew up in the Bay Area, but I've been in Santa Monica for I think 13 years. So it was basically starting over. Um, so yeah, like I said, you whether it's business or your personal life, every time something goes wrong, I just try to look at the positive side because that's the only thing that's going to keep you going. Because what's the point? You can't control a lot of things that happen in life, business, your family, your friends, your health. And so, I always try to look at the positive things in anything that goes wrong or bad or what we consider as a failure.
Yeah. And you have kids?
I have no kids. No.
You have no kids.
That's
Okay. I was confused. I saw on Instagram some kids and I
oh,
was
my
like, not her
nieces.
kids, but
Yeah. One of them looks like me, but those are my nieces. No, I'm actually no, I have no kids. I'm not married. I'm single. So in terms of like work-life balance, I can, yeah, with COVID, it's like I can just focus on what I want to do and my business. So I'm definitely in a good position because I don't know how people are doing it with children. I
yeah.
applaud them, when they have to school them. No, I just have myself to worry about in my business. So I'm in a good place. I
But
can't go.
it's difficult in another way because I think you can easily overwork yourself when you're single because if you, I mean, of course, it's hard when you have kids and a family and this and that, and you have to manage all that. It's not my case, so I'm just I have my wife and we manage like that. But we're always on the limits, and if we had kids, I don't know how we would be. But I think if you're alone, I mean, if you're single, it's maybe harder not to overwork yourself sometime. So how do you take those, how do you manage this work life balance?
Well, what's funny is, so I was married very young, and then I'm
Okay.
actually, and this is the first time like really openly talking about it, but I moved to the Bay Area because of a guy, and then I got engaged like 2 days after Shark Tank aired, and then
Okay.
I broke up with him. So I was probably one of those cases where COVID happened, and then you really get to know your significant other and realize this is not for me. And so with me, I'm starting over with my life because I've always been in a serious relationship, got married really young, engaged. I didn't, we basically kind of rush things. And so now I'm in a weird transition in my life where it's like, okay, I think I'm going to stay here in the Bay Area. Now I really have to find myself, not as a single person. And so I'm not saying single life is easy, but it's good for me right now because so much has
Yeah.
happened with my life, with my business. The week that I filmed for Shark Tank, my father passed away, and it was tough
Oh,
on me because I was living in Los Angeles, and mind you, it's not far; it's a 1 hour flight. But I was working so much; it was the busiest season I had. I finally started working with a distributor. I was filming for Shark Tank. I was working 7 days a week. I was trying to manage a long distance relationship at the same time, and
wow.
so it was a
That's
lot.
a
So no, it was
lot.
hard on me, and I've always worked 2 jobs whenever I could. So for the first time in my life, at the age of 34, I'm single and I can step back from, okay, I worked 7 days a week for the longest time. And now,
Wow.
I mean, because of COVID, I used to do store demos on the weekends or events on the weekends. Because we don't have that now, I don't have to work on the weekends. Of course, I'm very responsive to like social media or
Sure.
emails on the weekends, but I don't physically have to be at a kitchen or whatever. So this is a new life for me. So I'm still figuring it out. It's weird. But I like it because I can
Yeah.
now focus on me and not worry about somebody else at the moment. Just because what I've been through, like I said, I was married and I was engaged, and I'm starting over.
That's 1, 2 years that were really packed, really
Yes.
intense for you. Wow. Wow. And I think a lot of people also reassess themselves and thought about their lives during after the COVID as well. Of course, we didn't have all all the elements you had in your life, but I think even people who had a normal, 9 to 5 job with no special events during that year, they still thought about what they're gonna do, where they're gonna live, how they're gonna live. I think it poked people introspection, if I can say so.
It opened up their eyes a lot to, yeah, kind of evaluate what they're going through right now, and how.
For how long? For how long? That's the question. For how long? Yeah, that's the.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean,
Anyways,
you just take it one day at a time. I know I
yeah,
am.
yeah.
So.
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Also, I'm interested. I'm interested about. I'm passionate about education, and as an entrepreneur who worked a lot, and you talked about your mom and how she inspired you, and I know you don't have kids, but you don't need kids to talk about education. I'm interested to know what you think. Um, what do you think about education today relating to entrepreneurship? Because I know entrepreneurship is not taught too much. And what do you think it should be? How should it be? I'm interested in that.
Um, because I didn't go to college right away after high school. I mean, someone like me who I have a hard time specializing in one thing. So with education, I'm of course totally for education, but the conventional route, the typical after high school you have to figure everything out. I just don't think that should be normal. Like I feel
Mm,
um, it takes us so, there's so many people that I've talked to that went to college and they've changed their major so many times, and that's very expensive. For someone like me, I'm always wanting to learn, whether it's through work, through other people's experience, reading books online. The great thing about the internet, I'm always educating myself, just not in the traditional sense. you know you end up paying so much money to the college, and most of the time that's not what you pursue in your career.
yeah.
So education is very, very important. Unfortunately, yeah, it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody, and we have to be more open-minded. I think we are a lot more open-minded about that now. Especially with all of the resources we have online education, even through YouTube,
Yeah.
you can learn. But that's how I feel about education, where you don't have to go the traditional route, but you have to be open-minded. So whether that's reading books, podcasts, following speakers, motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, I feel like that's where we're shifting, and we need to be more open-minded about that kind of education.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm totally on board with everything you said, and especially in the US, universities. For a French guy, it's
Yeah,
crazy to see how expensive it is. But it's not judgmental. It's just we have different systems, right? But
right.
when you go to university in France, well, it is what it is. It's not. I went to university for 3 years, and it wasn't degree that's going to change my life. But I paid 500 euros for the whole year.
What is that, US dollars?
That's, I don't know, $600, that's
Oh my
that's
goodness. Yeah, the
that's
debt.
$600. And I mean, of course, I'm not on a campus and I don't have a room or whatever, but you have all the materials, you have all the courses for the whole year, and access to everything. And in some of the countries in Europe, I don't want to say, oh, this is France, it's perfect or not. That's not what I'm trying to do here. In other countries, they're paid to do the studies. In northern countries, and I don't want to. Maybe I'm mistaking on the countries, but Netherlands, Denmark, stuff like that, they paid to go to university. Some of those countries. So when you see like some of the universities, crazy, right? In the US, how much would it be in the US right now to go to
Um,
university?
I don't even know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, I finally
Yeah.
just paid off my student debt from culinary school. I mean, luckily I did a lot of my like associates courses through community college, so I saved money on that. But
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why I had to drop out of college, is because I worked so much and I couldn't justify. I was a philosophy major. I couldn't justify paying my tuition, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I'm like, this is not for me. But I felt bad. It was a secret for the longest time, but it motivated me. I told myself, if I'm going to drop out of UCLA, I better do something with my life. That, or just go back to school. So it was good. It just, I had nightmares about it, and it was not an easy decision. But looking back at it now, it was a great decision for me, because I didn't know what I was going to do with a philosophy major. I was very passionate about the topic, but in terms of like justifying the student loan debt, and then
Yeah.
having to financially support myself while I'm going through school, it was impossible for me at the time, especially because I was very passionate about health and fitness, and that's what I wanted to pursue. So yes, the traditional route is not for everybody, and we need to be more accepting of that and not pressure our children to have to go to college right away. Like, let them figure it out. But we should
Actually,
be learning more about, entrepreneurship, how,
yeah.
taxes, how to pay your bills, stuff like that, the real world stuff too.
Yeah, it's very true. Actually, Mark Cuban actually made I have it here. It's a little book for kids and on entrepreneurship, with
Oh,
other authors. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll send you one. I'll send
didn't
you
see
one
it.
with pleasure.
That's
It's really cool. It's short, and well, I'll tell you more about it because there's something else that was not um, a project that I'm working on as well. But I'll send you one of the books. But it's something that I'm wondering as well. Did you need to go to culinary school, or was it a choice, and why did you do it?
I mean, looking back at it now, I should have just got a job at a restaurant and my knife skills that way. But it's one of those things, sometimes you feel like, okay, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so why not? I needed structure, and even though yes, it's just cooking, you can learn that on YouTube. I watched the Food Network, but it was just, I wanted that structure, and there were things that I didn't know. So I just felt like I needed to enroll in culinary school. But it definitely helped me, because it taught me a lot about kitchen management, and a lot of
Yes.
things that we don't even talk about, like learning your cost of goods sold. You actually learn that in culinary school. So the management side of having a food product or a restaurant, you do learn that in culinary school. So I don't regret it. Of course, it was very expensive, but a lot of people ask me, should I go to culinary school? It's like, well, it depends. You could just go get a job at a restaurant and learn the same thing. So
Yeah.
that's probably an option too. So you don't have to go to culinary school for sure. But the one thing I did learn was to properly make ice cream. I'm not a baker. People don't realize this, but when you're a chef, rather a chef, you just cook freely without any recipes. And then there's the pastry chef, and I am not that. But I actually did pay attention in one of my classes when they started talking about ice cream, where you add an egg yolk, you cook it with the milk or the cream. So that was the one thing that I did get out of culinary school that I actually use in my business, considering I have an ice cream company.
That's cool, though. That's cool. It's
Yeah.
important. So, what is next for you now? What's next? I
Um,
know there's a lot going on
yeah.
now, so I don't want to push it too much, but
Well, obviously is getting my products out there to more retailers, more states, expanding. But eventually, what I see with Coconut Girl is being more than ice cream. It was originally Coconut Girl ice cream. I dropped it. Now we're Coconut Girl brands. And so, thinking big, eventually I'd love to have other products that's not just ice cream, but Coconut Girl, I want to be like the next Skinny Girl brand. But in the health and fitness space, whether it's clothing or other products that's not ice cream. But I want Coconut Girl to be this brand that has other products.
that I can buy from you, some clothes or whatever
Yeah.
that is unfrozen. And
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I'm looking for stuff to
So that's
buy.
next for Coconut.
I'll send you a picture with the t-shirt, Coconut Girl.
There you
Uh,
go. Coconut Man.
yeah, why not? And what do you think are the next obstacles that you are going to find in your way that you are going to have to overcome?
Well, it's definitely the growing pains. I mean, I feel it now. The bigger that you get, the more you expand to different distribution centers, you have a whole set of problems. So that's, yeah, I feel like those are the next issues I'm going to be facing, and I am facing right now is, launching other products, being in other states. And the bigger you get, you have bigger problems, and then managing the team and having more people on staff. But it's all exciting things. I'm still this day very, I think you asked me, and I don't know that I answered it, but has Shark Tank changed my passion? And no,
Yes.
like it gave me validation, and I'm more passionate about it because I feel like there are people out there who believe in me or stand behind me. I have mentors now, which is amazing. I have access to that. I'm definitely more driven and more passionate because I'm not
Mm.
really tired from being in the kitchen. And so I am able to just be more creative, and meet more with people, not physically, but connect via email or even connect with you. If I was working in the kitchen 7 days a week, I would have to say no because I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I have more opportunities to connect and network with people, even though there's COVID. So
I think it's kind of also a little bit unfair that people are like, oh, Shark Tank gave you this opportunity. Like you went and get it like another investor. So I want to take that
yeah,
away from the comments that could
yeah.
say that
It
because
gave me
not, huh?
exposure, national exposure.
Yeah, exposure, but
That's
also an
why.
investor. And it's like your life changed after that. Yeah, well, no, it's you build it until there. So I think it's also something that people can mistake for young entrepreneurs, and they might look for this one opportunity that's going to change everything, but you worked so hard before. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we should tell them like hang on if you're working in the kitchen because you're building for something,
Yes.
for the day then when you're going to meet a potential investor or something like that.
Oh yeah, and Shark Tank or my investor, they didn't like solve my problems. I had,
Yeah.
you just need a little bit of help, um, and mentors, and that's really what I needed was the financial help and the mentorship. But I put in all of the work. I mean, even though post Shark Tank, you still have to put in all the work. I mean, with the sharks, they want to work with entrepreneurs who are in this full time. They don't want to
Yeah.
just invest in a company. They do all the work. Like, what's the point? They don't have time for that. They have so many investments. So, the one thing that I've noticed is people are investing in the investor, the entrepreneur, and so people get really insecure about, oh, my sales numbers aren't here, or I have no sales. It's not just that. I realize it's you as the entrepreneur. That's what they invest in, and I feel like that's the number one reason why they invested in Coconut Girl was they saw my passion, my drive, my hustle. I was doing everything on my own, and I got all my accounts. Till this day I'm still getting my accounts myself. So yeah, just be passionate about it and people will see it and share your story. So
I think we have to stop here because we cannot go better than that. And I took a lot of your time already. I think that's great advice for people watching us, and I hope it's going to inspire them. Um, I want to show them and tell them where we can find you. We're going to put links in the description, of course, but can you tell on which social media, your website?
yes, it's just Coconut Girl Brands. with an S. Same with Instagram, which is mostly what we use. But thank you for letting me share my story. I really appreciate it. So
No, with pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. It was really enjoyable, and as I said to you, it's the first time I contact someone I saw a video from on LinkedIn randomly, and I was like, why not? It's a super cool story. So and I think a lot of people are going to be inspired. I know from my entourage, from my for people I know, I told them, I'm going to do a podcast with that girl, and you're going to watch it. So I know already that some people are going to benefit from that. So thank you so much for your time. I'll put all the links below, and maybe I see you the next time.
awesome. My
Thank
pleasure.
you. Bye, Frankie.
Bye.